Hi, I'm Miss Haley with the Huntsville-Madison County Public Library, and today I'm going to show you a STEM activity about probability. For this activity, you will need a writing implement. It can be I'm using a Sharpie so that you guys will be able to see really well, but you could use a crayon or a pencil or whatever you happen to have. You need 50 M&Ms. When you count out your M&Ms, it's very important that you don't pick specific colors. So just grab a handful of M&Ms and start counting. You want random colors of M&Ms. So don't worry about that yet. We'll talk about colors in a minute. So 50 random M&Ms and a piece of paper. Now for this first part, I'm going to use the other side of my paper to talk about probability. You guys do not need to write this stuff down. You can if you want, but you do not have to. So what is probability? Probability is the chance that something will happen. So it's the likelihood or chance that something will happen, and probability is the way we calculate that. And we usually express probability in percentages. So, for example, a 50% chance that something would happen. So let me illustrate probability for you. We're going to make a scale of probability here. Draw a big line. Now down here on this side we have 0, so that's a 0% chance. And over here on this end we have a 100% chance. In the middle, of course, we would have 50%. And right here and here we'll have 25% and 75%. So let's put some examples on here. Well, not yet. Let me talk about these first. So 0% chance means that something is impossible. There's absolutely no way it will happen. So that's impossible. 50% chance means that there is an even or equal chance that something will happen. It's 50-50. I'm sure you've heard that expression before, that something is 50-50. That means there's an equal chance that it will happen. A 100% chance means that it is certain. There's no way it won't happen. It's absolutely certain that it will happen. Now, in between these, we have less likely and more likely. The closer you get to 100, the more likely something is. The closer you get to 0%, the less likely something is. So 25%, and this whole area really, would be unlikely. It may happen, but it probably won't. And then over here is the reverse of that. So 75%, it is likely. So it is likely that something will happen. It probably will happen, but it may not. There's still a chance that it won't. So now that we have our scale, we'll put some examples on there. Let's start with 0% chance. I'm going to use a superhero as an example. So let's say flying like a superhero. Obviously we can fly in an airplane, but just flying with our own self like a superhero, that's made up, that's imaginary, and it's really fun to imagine, but it's also impossible for us to do it. So there is a 0% chance that today I'm going to fly like a superhero, sadly. Now, 50% chance is a pretty common example of that would be a quarter. So if we flip a quarter, draw a really bad person right there for you. If we flip a quarter, there's a 50-50 chance that it'll land on either side because there's only two sides. There's only two options, which means it will either be heads or tails. So there's a 50% chance that it would be heads and a 50% chance that it would be tails. So it's an equal chance, completely even. That's why when we're trying to make a decision between two people, or like trying to decide who goes first, we flip a quarter because there's a fair way to determine. Everybody has the same amount of chance in that situation. So let's talk about likely. We'll talk about likely next. It is really cloudy today when I'm filming. It may not be while you're watching, but right now for me, it is very cloudy and I think it's going to rain. So I checked the weather And the weatherman told me there was an 80% chance of rain. So 80% is way over here near 100. That means it's extremely likely, very, very likely, that it is going to rain today. Now you can take this the other way. There's an 80% chance of rain, but that's not 100. So 100 minus 80 leaves us with 20. So if we come over here, there's a 20% chance of no rain. So it's very unlikely that it will not rain today, but there is still a 20% chance that it won't. So you can go both ways with a percentage when it's not either impossible or certain. There's always two sides to that. So what's 100% certain? 100% certain, some things are always 100% certain, some things aren't. Sometimes it depends on the person. But I can tell you, for me today, there's 100% certainty that I will eat some M&Ms. Probably for you too if you're doing this at home. I can also tell you there's probably 100% certain chance that your parents won't let you eat M&Ms for dinner. Sadly, just saying. But I want to leave this one open to you. So I want you guys to, at home, come up with some examples for all of these, but especially you come up with one for something that is 100% certain. I want you to decide that one. So we're going to go on to our project, and I'm going to draw a line across the bottom of my page there, not a lot of line. I'm going to write the word total, and I'm going to write the number 50 because I know I have 50 M&Ms, so that's my total M&Ms. I'm going to put that right there just so we have it and we can remember. So now I'm going to draw a line up the page right here halfway, like that. And I know that there are 6 different colors of M&Ms, so I want to divide this paper up like that. Okay. So now we're going to count our M&Ms, and we are going to dump them out. You want to make sure you're doing this on a clean surface, not like the floor, because you don't want to eat off the floor, and we want to eat our M&Ms later. And I'm going to start dividing my M&Ms by color. So in each one of these boxes, I am going to put a different color of M&M. It doesn't matter which box you choose for what color, you just need them all separate. I'm just randomly picking whichever one happens to get into my hands first. And we're dividing up all our M&Ms by color. Like that. Now hopefully you have 6 different colors of M&Ms. It is possible that maybe you wound up with not any of one color, and that is okay. If you have none of a color, say I had no brown ones, you just leave that spot blank and you would write down the color you don't have. But for right now, we're going to write down in each square. This is very important because we're going to mix them back up in a second and we need to remember which one was which. So I'm going to write blue, green, orange, yellow, red, and brown. Now your colors may not be in the same squares as mine, so you just write whichever color is in that square, that's what you're going to write right there. So if you had, say I had no brown ones, I would still write brown in this square. Say you have no yellow ones, still write yellow in the blank square that doesn't have anything in it. And that's important. So now you're going to count each of your colors. So we're going to divide them up. I like to just move mine into 2s because I think that's easy to count, but you can just count them however you want to. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So I have 11 blue, and I'm going to write that number down. That's super duper important. I have 7 green. I have a lot of orange. I bet I have more orange than anything just from looking at it. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 orange. I have 6 yellow. I have 8 red, and I can clearly see I have 4 brown. So if you wound up with one that didn't have any, you would put a 0 there. Okay? So now what I want you to do is bring your M&Ms to the middle, mix them up, pick up your paper very, very carefully. You don't want to spill them. Put your M&Ms back in there, in your cup. That's why it's very important that we write down each color, because if I just written down the number, I wouldn't know, oh, those were orange. Or if I didn't write down my number, I wouldn't know how many I had. So I'm going to mix them up a little bit. I want to make sure they're random again. I'm going to set that aside. So we can do this 2 different ways. We can do a precise way where we calculate the percentage for each one, and we're going to do that. Or we can just do it by looking at the numbers and talking about it, but not doing an exact calculation. For example, we'll start with that. I have the most orange M&Ms, which means that if we flip back over, orange is the most likely. So I have 6 different colors. So nothing's 100% and nothing's impossible. If you had 0 M&Ms, say I had 0 brown M&Ms, it would be impossible for me to pull a brown M&M out of there because they're not there. But I do have some. So we'll have orange up here, somewhere in this area. We could have blue would be the next one. Blue's the next most likely. Then red. And then green. Yellow. And then brown, since I only have 4, and I have 50 M&Ms total, brown is the least likely for me to have. But we can be much more precise with that. And we can actually calculate the percent that we have a chance to pull these out. So to do that, we need to consider it in terms of 100. So 50 times 2 is 100. So we have 11. So 11 over 50. This involves math, you guys. I'm not even sorry. I love math. So if we multiply both of these by 2 times 2, that would be 22 out of 100. All right, so we're going to do this for each one. So there's 14 out of 50. It's pretty easy. You just have to double each number, you guys. So that's 100 for 50 always. And then that's 28. 8 out of 50 becomes a 16 out of 100 chance. And we convert to 100 because percents are always percents of 100. So we always want to convert it to 100 to get that percentage mark, okay? That's why we are doing that. So 7 out of 50 is the same thing as 14 out of 100. And let's see, 6. 6 out of 50 times 2 is 6 plus 6 is 12, that's right. So then 4 out of 50 times 2 equals 8 out of 100. So a fraction can also be a representation of division. So we can divide rather than multiply here. So if you take 22 and divide it by 100, we know there's a 22% chance that we'll pull that out. So there's an easier way to do this. You don't actually have to divide anything because this number here, that's our chance. And all of these should add up to 100 if we add them up. So I'll show you guys that. So 22 plus 14 plus 28 plus 12 plus 16 plus 8 is 100. So we have these divided, we have the number 100 divided out between each of these. So there's a 22% chance of blue, a 14% chance of green, a 28% chance of orange, a 12% chance of yellow, 16% chance of red, and an 8% chance of brown. So, if I reach in here and I pull out a random M&M without looking, there's a most chance that it'll be orange or blue. Those are my highest chances. And there's the least chance that I'll pull out a brown. So let's see. But that doesn't mean I won't pull out one of these, because it's a chance. It's a likelihood. We know the likelihood that I will pull out any given color, but what I actually pull out is a blue. And if I go again, let me put it back in so that I'll still have my right percentage. Pull again. Well, that's a green. I only had a 14% chance of pulling out a green. So you can see how likely it is to pull out a given color, but that doesn't mean nothing is impossible on here, because we didn't wind up with any that had 0. And that is how you calculate probability. I hope you guys had fun, and I hope you guys enjoy some M&Ms now. Thank you.